Used to sound check these things. Let's see. Yeah, he's a better... Ross, you're so wrong. He's a better suspect than Don Chaney. By far. Dude, alright. I don't know if Ross is going to see this. But yeah, D'Angelo is totally a better suspect for Zodiac than Don Chaney because Don Chaney never killed anybody. D'Angelo killed 13 people that we know of, so definitely a better suspect. I think that outweighs Paradise in the ciphers, which really... Should I do a stream about Don Chaney? People don't... Oh, man, I want to do a stream about Don Chaney. We're going to do a separate thing for that. In fact, what I should do, if I want to have, like, maximum effect, do, like, a whole produced video. Might be a good idea. Yeah. Let's just talk Ripon Court. Because here's the thing. We actually don't know who... Jeez. It's not the... Don Chaney's not the fucking Zodiac, man. I don't even want to entertain that crap anymore. Okay, moving on. Yeah, purpose of this stream was Ripon Court Revisited again. Did I bring a vape with me? I should have done that. That was stupid. Hold on. I came extraordinarily unprepared. I should have brewed coffee and brought a vape. But I guess it's 7 p.m. We don't really need coffee, though it would be nice to have. Let's talk Ripon Court. I think it's smart, if we're going to talk about Ripon Court, to really hit this from the beginning. So... Here we go. Okay. Case number is not cataloged. We're going to let's really soak in everything in this. Let's take it slowly. I like to consider the Quester files to basically be the definitive case file of the East Area Rapist. And I think that a lot of people also have kind of come to that realization. That if you're going to talk EAR, if you're going to learn about the EAR, you really need to read the Quester files before... I mean, do you even really need to read Hunting a Psychopath and Sudden Terror? I don't know, because I haven't read them. And people would go like, well, how can you talk about this case if you haven't read... since I think podcasts that have the view... has the podcaster on screen tend to be more well-received... We're going to do this. Can you guys see that stuff? I'm going to read it anyway, so here we go. Let's just go into it. Let's start from the beginning. Here's what I want to say about why Hunting a Psychopath and Sudden Terror are... I haven't read them, and why I consider them to essentially be inferior to the Quester files. That's going to be a controversial opinion. And I can't even actually form that opinion because I haven't read the books. However, there is an element of bias that comes in when you are getting this information from the law enforcement officers, right? Versus a guy like Quester. Now, on the other side of that, Quester Files is essentially a summary of Sudden Terror and Hunting a Psychopath. It's a neat... I haven't read the books. I should stop this stream and start over. Anyway, let's get started. So, offense is an assault, attempted homicide. The address is on Ripon Court. Case number is not cataloged. City is Sacramento. Date's February 16th, 1977. And the time is 10:30 p.m. What are you guys seeing now? The whole first couple minutes of the stream are going to be hated by people. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. It was about 10:30 p.m., a cold, dark February night in College Glen. This is the Sacramento subdivision just south of Glenbrook, where victim 11 had been struck on January 19th. Despite it being divided by Glenbrook by Highway 50, the two communities were connected by a bridge over the highway on Occidental Street. This made Occidental the main street to and from both areas. Okay. EAR must have known this area. Occidental had to be the street by which he had got to victim 11's house, for it is off Occidental on Great Falls Way where the sheriffs found the victim's car. EAR had driven it to the apartment complex and disappeared into the night, as he often told his victims he would. This means that EAR had somehow come to Glenbrook through the College Glen area to begin with. It seems reasonable to deduce that he had come from around from around Folsom Boulevard, the main road east and west from Rancho Cordova, and this must be how he escaped. So to cut to the chase, EAR had to know the main areas of College Glen already by January 19th, 1977. A few blocks into the community from Occidental was Ripon Court. It was a short cul-de-sac across the street from a school and its park. There wasn't much else about this area of College Glen that fit EAR's prowling modus operandi, only this area. By February, sheriff profilers had already been collating EAR's MO, noting that invariably he struck a block of homes one row over from a canal, park, school, or levee. I want to say something here because I'm very familiar with the AR's MO. I've been studying it for a couple of years now. And I want to point out to you guys that the reason that EAR, Joe D'Angelo, was striking the second row of houses over from a canal or a levee or whatever he's talking about is because it was a very, very common thing for EAR to enter a house that he was going to attack, not through its front door, and more particularly not from its street. EAR, D'Angelo, would strike a house by entering its backyard, and he would enter its backyard by jumping over the backyard of the house behind it. And so what ends up happening is when the sheriff's department or the law enforcement guys come to canvass the area, they basically go, hey, did anyone ever see this guy on, Street Alpha, which is, you say your address is, 121 Alpha Street. Well, EAR was never on Alpha Street. He was on Bravo Street. And he would, prowl onto that street, and then he would gain entry probably and usually through a side gate of one of those houses, the one directly behind the house he was going to target, and then he would go into its backyard and he would jump the back fence into the backyard of the target house. And so that way, neighbors and law enforcement never saw the offender on Alpha Street because he was never on Alpha Street. So the address, you're thinking intuitively that, well, this house is on 121 Alpha Street, but EAR never actually walked on Alpha Street. I mean, he probably did, but on the night of the attack specifically, he wasn't, like, a perfect example, and I like to tell people this, if you're studying the Irons' modus operandi, go to Irvine. Go to Columbus in Irvine. It is the textbook. It is the field training, the field guide for understanding how the modus operandi unfolded. And, for example, on the night of the attack when he killed Manuela Bethune, he didn't come from Columbus. He came through Sycamore Park. We believe that he parked, and this is an original discovery. It's not known to anyone or anywhere else. My wife and I found this. We believe that he parked on the corner of Slocum and Lewis in a blind spot. Basically walked up Lewis, turned left into Sycamore Park, and then followed the defilade through Sycamore Park along the edges so he wouldn't be seen. And then from Sycamore, there's a cut in the cement retaining. It's a wall, basically, There's a cut in that wall, and he goes through that wall onto Fulton. And from the backyard of the corner house on Fulton, he jumps over and gains access to the backyard of Manuela Bethune, and her address is at 35 Columbus. You may notice that during that attack, he's never on Columbus. Now, he was probably on Columbus in the reconnaissance phase, which was a separate situation. But on the attack night, he's never actually on, for example, Alpha Street. He's on Bravo Street, and he gains access to 121 Alpha Street by jumping over the back fence of the house on Bravo Street. So that's why he's striking one row over from a Canal Park school or levee, as Quester says. And this is something that I think Quester never too much mentions, but it might exist somewhere in the Quester files. What's up, Polly Walnuts? It might basically exist in the Quester files in passing. And I would have to read through the Quester files again. I've read it probably 3 or 4 times total all the way through. Probably 3 times all the way through. And it's not particularly a bad idea to read through the Quester files several times if you're trying to understand this case. In the part of the school directly across from Ripon Court was a huge grassy park. Citadel Way, the street off which was Ripon Court, was also lined by tall trees whose branches formed a dark canopy over Citadel and the entrance to Ripon Court. It was a clandestine area full of shadows, and this fits EAR's tactical MO. He's right about that. There are, and I would have to see the Ripon Court crime scene, because I'm from Southern California, and this is considerably north. I've never been to, well, I think I have been to Northern California, but I didn't go there with true crime on my mind, so I'd like to go up there again and see all these places. If I went to Citadel Way in Ripon Court, I could tell you within 30 seconds if this is truly an EAR crime. I would know immediately, because it will probably help to look through the pictures of this. But when you're in an EAR area of operations in real life, it is very, very obvious that you're in an EAR area of operations in real life. In fact, the only real outlier, I would say, of the 3 crime scenes that I've been to, was Laguna Niguel. But even Laguna Niguel had bike paths, and people didn't know that they were there because they're harder to find. We can look at this on the maps and we can talk about it. But Laguna Niguel was definitely a little different than Irvine. In Irvine, there's these huge trees. I guess they're sycamore trees or whatever they are. And they provide basically this hallway of tall, lush vegetation. And I would know it within 30 seconds if I went to this area if Rod Miller was shot by Joe D'Angelo. Therefore, it seems more than coincidental that the following incident would happen here. And we'll look at this. Let's see what you guys see on the screen. Make sure that you can see the... Yeah, you see those trees there that are on your screen here in the middle? Right above lurker shoots? That is the type, it's that shadowy, lush green vegetation, those low-hanging trees that are just massive. And that's a very, very characteristic thing for EAR. He was using those as camouflage at night. Young Rod Miller just came into his house from the garage door of their Ripon Court home when both he and his father Ray heard something in the backyard. It sounded like someone had bounced into Ray's barbecue. The barbecue that he's talking about is a 55-gallon drum that's been converted to a smoker. So I don't know if he says this here. I don't think he does. But basically it's a steel drum. Have you ever read that PDF thing the Sacramento DA's office put out a few months after Joe was sentenced? It was like a booklet. It has tons of anecdotes from people who encountered him at some point when he was running wild. No. Can you link me to that? I would love to see that. But basically, this barbecue is not actually really a barbecue. It's a 55-gallon steel drum that's been converted to a smoker. Ray flicked the outside light on, and both saw a young man lurking in the dark corner of the backyard. Ray yanked the sliding glass door open. I want you to pay attention to something here. Specifically. Ray flicked the outside light on, and both saw a young man lurking in the dark corner of the backyard. The lights are on. Okay? So, Now, this may just be pretty ambient light, but either way you slice it, they're looking at this guy with some form of secondary light source present at the scene. The lurker bolted straight for the front yard along the side of the house. Pay attention to that. Rod immediately gave chase, with Ray close behind him. The lurker was incredibly agile. He dashed through the gate and across Ripon Court to the house opposite the Millers. I want to point something out about this agility thing. This, I think, gets overstated in this case a lot. Do you have an email? Yes, the email address. Should I put it on screen? Let's put it on screen. It's nukehoaxbandevasion@gmail.com. I'm going to do this for you. I'm not one for subtleties, in case you're wondering by that email address. So here we go. Ban evasion. I'm not hiding much there, guys, if you know what I mean. I should put .com there, huh? Okay, cool. Yeah, let's, how can I move some of these things around? Let's see, let's do that. Gmail.com. Stand by. I know this is interruptive, but it's for a good cause, because I suspect that there's going to be some interesting information that we can cover. In fact, we probably do, depending on what that PDF is like. We could do an entire Iran's news segment on it. We'll see what it looks like. Trying to just get everything kind of starting to get a little cluttered here. Okay, so email address is now at the bottom of the screen there, Paulie. Okay. The agility thing in this case is kind of exaggerated. Just, you know, if you live in a middle-class suburb type area, or if you've ever been to one, or you have access to one, just go look at those fences. They're not hard to jump, you know, probably about 6 feet tall. And they're made of wood, so you do have some traction that you can jump on there. So let's look past all this agility thing and just move forward. He dashed through the gate and across Ripon Court to the house opposite the Millers. He bounded over that home's side fence, but Rod did not stop. He braced a foot against the fence and leapt up, hands clutching the top of the palings, ready to bound over in hot pursuit. Very, very careless. But when you're 18 years old and, you know, full of military-age male masculine energy, this might have seemed like a good idea to Mr. Miller. In hindsight, I would say probably a terrible idea. At this very moment, from the darkness below him, he heard a gun cock. There was nothing he could do. He was completely exposed, and momentum didn't allow him to fall back. He heard a gun cock. Let me find something out here. Let's see. Is the Moroku single action or double action? I think it's a double action, isn't it? It's a Colt Python, isn't it? So let's look it up on Wiki. Oh, some are single action. Or I guess that's double single, because you can do both. So that's your Moroku right there, basically. But that is when they had shrouded. Anyway, I could be wrong. It might not be a Colt Python. But we know that D'Angelo was very familiar with revolvers. What does he mean by he heard a gun cock? Does that mean the hammer was cocked or the slide was racked? Because there's a difference. With a semi-automatic pistol, it has a rackable slide. So, top of it, as you see in the movies, like that. Cocking a hammer is just right here, the thumb, like that. So we don't know what that means. When he says, I heard a gun cock, that could be either thing. There was nothing he could do. Okay. A loud burst spit forth. His stomach burned. He fell back into his father's arms. I have been shot, he cried. His hands clutched his stomach, blood oozing out between his fingers. Another shot roared from the other side of the fence. Yeah, murder Inc. Yeah, we're gonna get some Upload to Mediafire. Oh, that would be very cool if you can do that. Yeah, can you zip archive all those and send me? Because I need to read Hunting a Psychopath and Sudden Terror. I want to read those. But either way. And then Murder Inc., we will talk about the 5 blocks. And you guys, you guys know I've said it 1,000 times. I think that D'Angelo shot Rod Miller. But the reason that we're revisiting this is because an epiphany dawned on me like 3 nights ago. And every time I have a realization in true crime, or some kind of an opinion is born, or some kind of a realization is had, it takes a little bit of time to really digest it and think. Because when I wrote, I lost the paper. I don't know where it went. But I pretty much wrote this whole pro and cons list up again as to whether or not I think this was D'Angelo. And although the pros for it being D'Angelo far outweighed the cons for it not being D'Angelo, that was not my barometer for a decision. We're going to get into it. We'll talk about it. But there were some realizations that I had that I was thinking, oh, crap. Maybe it's not him. And so I had to digest this for a second, and right now we're doing this together on purpose. We're reading through Quester files first, and we're talking about Ripon Court as we go, because I do think it was D'Angelo. And so Murder Inc. mentioning 5 blocks, yes, that could be true and is true. I'm not saying that his information's wrong. It's definitely, I'm sure, not wrong. Murder Inc. is very case knowledgeable of this case. But I want to just put aside all of that, because where Murder Inc. and I start to diverge is that, and I know I'm being hyperbolic here, I'm not saying that Murder Inc. thinks that every crime is D'Angelo, but there are more than one criminal, or there is more than one criminal in any given area at some time. So even though this offense is close to, what's the date on that one, Murder Inc.? Let's see. 1/1977, yeah. An undisclosed location. Okay. Oh, where is he typing from? Yeah, it doesn't matter where Murder Inc. is. Murder Inc. is on the internet. It's not, we don't need to know that. I mean, anyway. Okay, let's keep going. And I have to kind of tab out each time to check the chat, guys. So if I'm trying to get to all of this stuff at once. Another shot roared from the other side of the fence. Ray pulled his son back to safety behind the front of the neighbor's garage door. Shouting, screams of pain, of course, echoed over the court. Lights came on in the houses. Soon every neighbor was on the phone calling the police. It wasn't long before squad cars screeched up, followed by an ambulance. Police were quick to cordon off the general area, but the perpetrator had silently escaped. Rod Miller had 13 holes in him. Mind-blowing, guys. The bullet had ripped through his internal organs. Fortunately, he would survive. The Sacramento Bee expressed its worry that the shooter might have been the East Area rapist. Lieutenant Shelby believed it was all but a given that the lurker was EAR. In retrospect, there is every chance that the lurker was indeed EAR. Aside from the fact the area fit his modus operandi, the school grounds right across the street, the Miller's house backed the second house to the corner on Notre Dame Drive behind them. Notice this, guys. This is what I explained to you before. Where did they first run into this lurker? Where did they first spot this prowler? In their backyard. Well, Miller's house backed the second house to the corner on Notre Dame Drive. So he's never seen on Ripon Court, of course, until everything goes south and he shoots at Rod Miller. He's seen only on Notre Dame Drive, and if everything had gone ideally, he would have gained access to the Ripon Court address from the backyard of the house on Notre Dame Drive, performed whatever offense he was going to do, and then he would have exited, presumably, on Notre Dame Drive. Never have even stepped onto Ripon Court. For whatever reason, this is an interesting thing about the offender at this crime scene. Instead of jumping over, and I haven't been to Rod Miller's backyard, so I don't know what the conditions are like there, but instead of jumping over the back fence the same way he came, he takes the point of most resistance and he runs across the backyard and down the side yard of that house and escapes through the side gate. Kind of interesting, and you would expect him to do... You wouldn't expect him to take a chance like that. But for whatever reason, he did it that way. It's possible that he was worried that he had aroused the attention of the people in the house behind. And so if he jumped back over the fence, he might get cut off by the homeowner on Notre Dame Drive. But for whatever reason, he runs along the side yard and he goes through the side gate. More frequently than not, EAR had struck the corner house or the house next to it. From his earliest strikes, here we go. From his earliest strikes, it was clear that EAR also accessed houses from the house behind them. For number 1 and 3, for example, it seems he used Delray Court. It's not really explained why on the Quester Files. It becomes, as you start deep diving the modus operandi and you start coming to an understanding of how he's offending, it becomes quite clear why, if you look deeply enough. And the reason why is because, like I mentioned, he never wants to be seen on Alpha Street. He only wants to be, ideally not be seen at all, but he only wants the opportunity to be seen on Bravo Street and then access Alpha Street by jumping over the back fences of the houses on Bravo Street. More frequently, okay, we got that. In terms of pace, an argument can be made that this was the East Area Rapist. He had struck January 19th in Glenbrook, his first strike in La Riviera. His next victim was February 7th, but there would be no more victims in all of February. Yet in March, he would take up his pace again and strike at least 2 more, March 8th and March 18th, each spanned by about a week. I don't know why he didn't write 10 days, but in April he would do likewise. Considering he attacked on February 7th, his next attack was due near to the 16th of February. But there would be no other attack in February. There was only this unexplained incident where a young prowler saw fit to carry a gun like the East Area Rapist did and shoot to kill to protect himself. Okay. This is where the most powerful... Let's see. Oh, that's kind of weird. Oh, nice. Thank you for Sudden Terror. I'm going to read that immediately. As soon as the stream is over, I'm going to get started on that. That's very cool. Thanks. Let me make sure I got that before we close tonight. I mean, we still have a little ways to go on this one, but let's see. Oh my god, you're a legend. Thank you. I've been needing that book, and I tried to get a... Did you just straight attach it? You're a fucking legend, man. This is the whole PDF. Oh my god. What a cool guy. Thank you, Polly. Okay. This is where the argument that this is the EAR starts to really smack. All the geographics aside, all of the modus operandi is really powerful, guys. This is why we know that Berkowitz shot Wendy Savino. This is what modus operandi is very historically used, very reliably used to link, connect, or otherwise dispute connections in crimes. Because, and especially with the East Area Rapist, because he has such a specific modus operandi that whenever you see it, you know you're looking at it. Now, in fact, what we actually know is we only really have a solid picture of his modus operandi for a given window of time. And this is where I'm going to appease Murder Inc., in a sense, and basically agree with them, that, hypothetically speaking, this offender could have altered this modus operandi anywhere between or before 1975. I don't even think he had fully developed it as the Visalia ransacker. I haven't been to Visalia. I'd like to go to Visalia and check it out. I think that there's elements of that developing modus operandi happening in Visalia. Like we have this, walkway that goes along Kauai and backs up to all those houses on Kauai. But we only know the EAR's modus operandi from 1976 to 1986. We actually have a 5-year gap from 81 to 86 where anything could have happened. We don't have a DNA-linked attack from there, but it's very possible that there were other... I'm more inclined to believe that he did take a 5-year gap but could have offended after 1986 than I am inclined to believe that he switched that modus operandi between 81 and 86 and didn't offend with DNA between then. because the reason that he either stopped killing in 86 or he altered his modus operandi so as not to deposit DNA samples was because DNA had begun being used in criminal convictions in 1986. So he either stopped because he was scared of DNA, or he changed his MO up to not leave any more DNA, in which case we would really have no way to know if there are further offenses. And that's why, I mean, Murder Inc., I've been on your site quite a bit in the last several days. Yeah, you're right about that. You know. That's the thing, Murder Inc., I've been reading your site quite a bit in the past few days. And a lot of times my phone is dead, and it's kind of a nightmare to charge it. But I have been on your site a lot, and there's some stuff on there that screams to me D'Angelo. So I think that probably what it is, Murder Inc., I gotta meet you in the middle on this, is I think that you're probably right. There's probably a lot of unofficial, non-canonical EAR strikes that are D'Angelo crimes, but not everything that is on that site. I think that, you know, there's some, and that's fair. That's what we do in true crime. We're right sometimes, we're wrong sometimes. It's okay. It's exactly what we expect, and it's good. It's good to be wrong sometimes. It's good to be right sometimes. I don't think you're right on everything on Murder Inc. WordPress, but yeah, there's probably some crimes on there that are D'Angelo, and I very much applaud you for digging those up. And only thing I can do is just keep reading your site and figure out what I think is. And I need to start taking notes on some of these. And if they scream D'Angelo really loudly to me, then I should write it down. But the point is, and you're right, we can't really rule out a crime if the MO is different. Though I think that there are some situations where we can say maybe well, I guess we're getting into signature there. But yeah, you're right about connecting stuff versus not. I should have spoken a little more cautiously when I said that. Pacing for this crime. Here's a counter argument, and this hit me. I'm going to give you two counter arguments, and really, the geographic counter argument is not as strong. The counter argument against this being EAR is that he could have noted that there was heightened police presence. Oh, again, he's a police officer, so he has access to all the secret information, basically. Not the case files, but he knows what other cops are doing in other jurisdictions, I think. I think these guys talk. I think he has friends in places, and he can say, oh, what's going on over there? And they tell him, oh, we just had a shooting. They think it's the East Area Rapist. And he could have, say he's not the shooter, he could have said, I'm going to lay low for a little bit because there's going to be a heightened police presence as a result of this shooting, and I don't want to be caught prowling. That's one counter argument. We're going to talk about how he never struck south of Highway 50 again after this, but let's get to it on Quester before we go into it. Sacramento police did an identikit of the lurker. The kit below is promoted as the Ripon Court lurker. It shows a young man with a long face and morose eyes and an almost dead expression. I've always known this sketch to be called Ripon Court Shooter, but could be wrong there. Let's keep moving on. I've always called this sketch Ripon Shooter. What are you guys seeing on your screen right now? Mine's lagging behind. So. There had been no string of robberies in the neighborhood, and there was little reason to expect some crazed burglar about. Interesting. I don't know what's up with that. Now, it doesn't mean that it's not D'Angelo because there aren't burglaries. I can't tell you which attacks had burglaries preceding them by memory. Many, many, many of the Iran strikes were preceded by a rash of burglaries in the area, either on the same street or within blocks. So what was this lurker doing there if he was not the East Area Rapist prowling? Why would an ordinary prowler opt to wait on the other end of the fence and attempt to kill his pursuers? He generally wouldn't, and that's why I think that no matter what we do, guys, we just can't get away from the compelling probability that this is Iran's. It's simply too powerful of an argument to get around. You can try to counteract it, and this is why I like to take a couple days to digest these little realizations or little counter arguments that spin up in my mind. And I'm going, was it him? Was it not him? Right. And we're going to talk about why it's important if it's him. People say, well, what does it matter? Is the Easter rapist or not? For the sake of Captur Auto Iran's. Joe D'Angelo. It's all going to come down to the hair. And we're going to talk about that as we proceed. I've said this 1,000 times. Obviously, he had to delay them. At the very least, we must assume this. So we must accept that somehow he had come from the other side of the court, probably having parked on Chestnut Hill or Reed Court. That's a good assumption. I like that hypothesis a lot. But ultimately, what we see here is ambush tactics. We'll give you a temporary password to pull up the interactive... Oh, that would be cool, yeah. That would be fun. I'd like to do that a little bit more organized. Because I've seen snippets of your map, and it's just so much information. It's so many logos and different things. It would be like trying to, solve a jigsaw puzzle in live time on the stream. I'd have to have a plan of approach before that would matter too much. So maybe he's trying to delay them, maybe he's not. The point is, what matters here is that this prowler, in the midst of a pursuit, stopped and began lying in wait in the middle of a chase. He does this. Iran's does this. This is a cold, effective psychopath who is able to very quickly adapt to contingency in terrifying ways. You can be chasing this guy, and in split seconds, he makes drastic decisions that allow him to gain a tactical advantage on his adversaries. And it's actually mind-blowing the amount of confidence and fearlessness that is required to do something like that in that time. Imagine Rod Miller's chasing you. In seconds, he decides to stop below the fence and wait so that he can ambush the guy chasing him. Most people in that situation are overwhelmed by adrenaline and not thinking so clearly. But Iran's, during an extremely high-stress situation for him, is able to very rapidly make these decisions that give him a tactical advantage. And this is a very scary offender, guys. This is one of the worst offenders we have ever seen. The people who were up against this guy had no idea what they were dealing with. They are dealing with basically the special forces of serial killers. The Navy SEALs, SEAL Team 6 of serial killers here. And I know that SEAL Team 6 is just one team. It's not like it's elitist team or whatever, but you get the idea. This is Marine Force Reconnaissance style abilities. He's quick, he's effective, and he gambles a lot, and he wins those gambles a lot. Of course, he didn't win the gamble of his DNA being left at the crime scene, but there was nothing he could do about that. The only thing that confuses me about Joe D'Angelo's behavior is that he didn't just leave the country. I can't, to this day, I can't wrap my head around why the hell was he still in America when we caught him. Because he had every opportunity to just leave. And he should have known they were coming for him, because familial genetic matching was not unheard of. It was never used to capture a high-profile offender before him, but it was coming up on pro boards. This is something I learned going through pro boards. And people, well, why do you read the whole pro boards? What's the point? We already caught him. You're not getting it. Because we start to understand things about true crime by going back through the record. By looking, what were people saying in 2014, for example, about this guy? Well, for years before he was captured, people were saying, why don't they run his genetics through the familial databases, the civilian databases, GEDmatch? Even GEDmatch was named specifically, which is how we caught him. So it wasn't like this just out of left field sci-fi tactic that he could have never seen coming. We know he was probably reading pro boards. He was probably CBK. Possibly CBK. If not here, then he was headed for the quickest way out and didn't want to be followed to his car or bike wherever he would have to backtrack to find it. In any case, the lurker got away clean. The shells left at the scene were supposedly 9mm, which may have been the gun EAR had brandished to others previously. I want to disagree with Quester here. The firearm that, at least I believe, that Irons was brandishing to his victims in many of the attacks was probably a blue-steeled M1911 45 caliber pistol. It was noted by a victim, and I'd have to find out which attack for you to know for sure. I could probably... It's a little bit... I think it's Tactical 1 Del Deo. Could be wrong. Let's see. Yeah. Wow. Did I just call that? I think I just called that. Oh my god. That's how you know you've read the Quester files too much, guys. That's the attack. Attack number... Rape victim 21. He points a 45 caliber 1911 ACP at them. 45 ACP 1911 at them. This is frequently going to come up with Urons, is this firearm. What's interesting here is that every single fatal shooting that we have on record, every official canonical fatal shooting of the EAR was performed with a revolver. All of them. Every single time that he shot and killed someone that we know of officially, he did not eject shell casings. He did eject shell casings at the Ripon court crime scene. That has always been a wonder to me. Why did he do that? Now, if you're going the Murder Inc. route and you think he's also Zodiac, then of course he has been ejecting shell casings since at minimum 1968. I'm not saying that's the case, but what we do know is let's look at the fatal shootings of the EAR. We have Claude Snelling in Visalia. We have the Maggiores, Brian and Katie Maggiore. We have Offerman Manning. And I guess that's it, right? Am I missing anybody? He shoots Greg Sanchez, but that's not what kills him. The lawn plugger is what kills Greg Sanchez. I suspect that those are all the fatal shootings that we have on the official record. The canonical public narrative is that every time he kills somebody with a firearm, he does it with a revolver, and he doesn't eject shell casings. At Ripon Court, he ejects shell casings. Why? I can't tell you, and I don't know. Murder Inc., I don't know. What do you think about that? Now, Murder Inc., for just a second, put everything that you believe out of your mind. Let's just talk official murders. Let's say it's an alternate reality, a different universe, and you're completely changing what everything you believe about this case. And you believe, in this hypothetical situation, it is your opinion that only the canonical gunshot murders performed by the East Area Rapist occurred as a result of the East Area Rapist. Let's say it's just Claude Snelling, it's just the Maggiores, and it's just Offerman Manning. Why does he eject shell casings at Ripon Court? And furthermore, Murder Inc., why... Okay, now let's go back to this reality where we believe, or, where we know what your thoughts are. Lighter to prowl with semi-automatic. I think it's a heavier situation to carry. A revolver is very lightweight and very reliable, as far as I know. It doesn't have a lot of moving parts. Could be wrong there. A 1911 is a notoriously heavy firearm. Now, this is not a 1911. We don't know what this firearm was. It's a 9mm semi-automatic pistol. It's just an interesting concept. Now let's go back to this reality where we know that you don't believe that only the canonical gunshot murders of the Irons are gunshot murders of the Irons. How come sometimes he's using a revolver and sometimes he's using a semi-automatic? Because what he should know with his level of forensic awareness that if you're going to go out and gunshot murder somebody, you should always bring a revolver. You never want to leave brass at the crime scene. Nowadays, they have automated software. It's called Brass Match, where if you eject casings, they can run it through a database which has high-resolution 3D scans of every shell casing ever ejected at a homicide. And they can run that shell casing through and see if it comes up anywhere else. But it's interesting that some of those shootings are done with a revolver, and some of them are done with an automatic in your narrative. Now, let's meet in the middle again on this and say, I believe D'Angelo shot Rod Miller, which I do. So even in my narrative, he's not just shooting people with a revolver, he's sometimes shooting them with a semi-auto. Why is he doing that? It's one of those things I've just never been able to wrap my head around. Why the fuck? Sorry, Sandy Betts, for the swearing. But why in the crud is the EAR sometimes using a revolver and sometimes using a semi-automatic pistol? Because the revolver shows me forensic awareness. The revolver shows me that this is a scary fucking guy, man. This guy knows how to do it. He knows to bring a reliable firearm. A revolver basically never misfires. It's extremely rare that a revolver does not properly discharge when you attempt to fire it. Extremely rare. Pretty much, I mean, I've never had a revolver misfire or do anything, malfunction on me in my life. And generally, they don't malfunction. They're very reliable firearms, and they also don't eject brass. So it's very strange that an offender with such tactical awareness that he was even a police officer doesn't... Did I say forensic awareness? Then an offender with such tactical awareness... I did it again. Forensic awareness would bring a revolver, or would bring a semi-automatic ever. Trips me out. I can't understand it. The Miller family left. If the lurker was EAR, then it is possible that the sister was a future intended victim. Yeah, I mean, she does match. Could just be what he happened to have on him. Prowling was likely impulsive sometimes. Yeah, that's a good point. Makes you wonder. It's just one of those things I've never had a really solid explanation on, and there might not even be a solid explanation. It might be something simple like that. It might just be that we're dealing with a freaking lunatic, and there is no ability to assign logic to his behaviors. But at the same time, go to Irvine, because when you go to Irvine, you realize that you are dealing with a battlefield tactician. It's very alarming, guys. When I went to Irvine, it was like, whoa. Because I knew what I was looking at. This was a battlefield for him. It was very, very calculated and it was mapped out. I believe he was dealing with maps. I can tell you that from the start. I think that this offender had access to maps, and he was using them in preparation for the commission of his crimes. I'm almost positive of that. To what extent was he using the maps? Not too sure, but I don't think he was going into it blind everywhere. He never returned. The area south of Highway 50 would never be struck by the East Area Rapist again. He would return to La Riviera north of it, but never come south on Occidental, though he knew the area. So I've thought of this, and here's my counter-argument for this. He now knows that prowlers are a hot ticket south of Highway 50. However, same at La Alegria, same in the Cordova Meadows area, because he's been hitting Cordova Meadows since possibly earlier than 1976. He's been hitting Cordova Meadows religiously for years by the time that he wraps up his spree. Was this the East Area Rapist? For now, in the sequence of crimes as they unfolded, Sacramento police didn't know what they had. Speculation was that it was EAR prowling for a new victim. As time would go by, EAR's modus operandi would become painfully repetitive, and Ripon Court's location fits perfectly in the assault tactics of a night stalker who wouldn't quit. The existence of the Cordova cat, 1972 to 1973, had been forgotten by SSD by this time, as had a strange home invasion and attempted rape in Rancho Cordova in September 73 on Sarda Way by a perp who looked remarkably similar to this identikit. SAC police had no way to know that this so far might have been the real face of the Night Stalker. And then he posts photos of the area. Let me tell you this. I'm going to pull up specifically this photo. Because it looks a little bit like what I saw in Irvine. It's not quite Irvine. It's a little more minimal than Irvine. But do you see this row of trees on the left? This is the side of the street that EAR was working on here. Because these trees provide him concealment from the road. I believe I have all the Irvine stuff somewhere on my computer, and I should probably arrange it a little better, but if you go to my video, Crime Scenes of the Original Night Stalker, Irvine, California, and I show the row of trees that goes down Bryan Avenue, and Jeffrey Road, really, for that matter. And he's weaving through these trees here. I mean, really, probably on the, the residential side of the trees, so that the trees are giving him concealment as he's walking down the street. Here, I'm just going to remove this. Okay, so let's drop this down. Now let's start talking about why the heck does it matter if D'Angelo is the Ripon Court shooter. Let's see. Chosen one from... No, I did not see that yet. I don't think. 61. So, here's why. I don't know why he didn't put the Prowler on here. Here's why it matters so much if he's the shooter. Ripon Prowler. Ripon shooter. This is exactly why this is such a... Oh, fuck. Darn it. Sorry. Ripon shooter. This is why this is such an intriguing situation for me to research here. And then here's a picture of Joseph James D'Angelo. Oops. Joey, 1977. Is that... Do I have that? Ooh, that would be interesting to have, wouldn't it? Yeah, this is good. So this is Junkfood Joey. Same year. Not sure the month on this, but it's 1977. Here's Junkfood Joey in the middle. Officer Earons, as some call him. And then here is Ripon Prowler on the top left, and here's Ripon Shooter on the far right, or as Quester calls it, Ripon Lurker. I want to show you guys something, because this is where Quester gets something wrong. If you look at the date here, it says 2. It appears... Now, Quester thinks it says 11. Which would precede the Ripon incident by 5 days. 77. That is not an 11. That's a 16. That's February 16, 1977. It's a shitty 6, and it's hard to read it, but you can tell if you really blow this sumbitch up. Blow it up for you. That's a 1-6. It looks like 1-1, but it's not 1-1. It's a 1-6. Okay, so the date... situation has been resolved. This composite sketch, or this identikit, does not precede the Ripon shooting. It's from the same day as Ripon. Oops. Some of these things. Okay. Here's why this matters so much. Officer Junkfood Joey, down here in the middle, never had long hair. Never. He always kept it like this until he started going prematurely bald, in which case, I believe I have a photo of him with bald head. Do we have Junkfood Joey? The problem is, I have so many photos on here at this point. Here we go. JJD 1983. So provenance on this photo is 1983, and he's already going bald. Okay. This guy, Junkfood Joey, never had shaggy long hair like what we're seeing here in Ripon Prowler and here in Ripon Shooter. So what are we seeing? Well, the first thing to point out, let's see if I have Sarda. I don't know if I do. Sarda. Aha, I do. The first thing I want to point out with Sarda Way is the hair is identical to the hair that is seen in the Ripon Shooter sketch. It's identikit. It's identical. It is the exact same hair. It's not similar. It's not the same style. It's not the same type of hair. It is the same hair. Because this was built on the acetate sheets of an identikit. And they used the exact same hairstyle between these two identikits, 1973 and 1977. It is the exact same hair. You can go, I could prove it if you want me to, but I don't think I really need to, because if you look closely, you can see it's literally the exact same hairstyle. It's just the different qualities of the image. But you can see all the same areas, you know. For example, look at the texture of the hair here. And you see this little like dragon-shaped thingy that comes from left to right, both on Sarda Way and in Ripon Shooter. So we know for sure that this is the exact same hair. Well, that can have a huge impact on any resemblance that you think you see. Because if you look at this identikit on the left and this identikit on the right, with the hair completely removed and out of the equation, the similarities are actually not as substantial as Quester believed. But what's happening here is the identical hair is throwing off our brain. It's getting us to see more of a resemblance than there probably is. Now, if it is, in fact, if he is the shooter at Sarda, which many could make a very... or if he is the invader at Sarda, who I believe did discharge his firearm, but missed during the struggle, it could be argued that he was. But that's besides the point. What I really want to draw to your attention and really scream from the rooftops here is that a lot of the supposed resemblance that we're seeing between these two identikits is happening because this hairstyle is being reused between the identikits. So let's just remove that, because Sarda Way is a whole other rabbit hole. Let's see what everybody's going on here. Okay. What we know is that, regardless of what was going on with that identikit situation, on both the Ripon Prowler composite sketch over here and the Ripon Shooter identikit over here, the offender is being represented as having this long hair. You know, especially, and let's remove Ripon Shooter, because if the hairstyle is being removed, then what we know for sure with that is that we're not getting an exact, or we're not getting a particularly reliable representation of the offender's hair. We're getting the closest possible match of the identikit. If you look at my Let's Build an Identikit of the Zodiac, and I know I have less acetate sheets than these guys did, because they're the sheriff's department, But what we're seeing is that they could have just been limited to taking a close approximation. With Ripon Prowler, over here, this is a sketch. It's not an identikit. So considerable effort was expended, regardless of how close it was. Considerable effort was expended at ensuring that fairly long hair was represented here. What we're seeing at Ripon Court is that this offender had medium-length hair. Well, Junkfood Joey never had medium-length hair. So the only possible explanation, there are two possible explanations, and one of them I'm going to say let's rule it out. Because I've gone back and forth on this for a year and a half, and I think it's time to realize that my intuition has decided a long time ago that this was the AR that did this shooting. I don't think many people will argue with me on that. I know that the official narrative essentially believes that he is in fact the Ripon shooter. But I'm not satisfied by what does the official narrative think. I want to say, what do I think in this? And I think everybody should do this in true crime. And be prepared to just be fucking wrong, man. Like, there's people that come up with the theory and they're just so married to the damn thing that they just can't change their mind. Look at Drew Beeson. Drew Beeson's had every opportunity to at least acknowledge the possibility that he's wrong, and he just can't. Basically. That's where we are with him at this point. You know, he's got to have D.B. Cooper beat Ted Braden. He's got to have Zodiac beat Don Chaney. Are they? Almost certainly not. You know, I'll eat my shirt if the DNA comes out tomorrow and Don Chaney is Zodiac. Mark my words here. If we ever prove that Don Chaney is the Zodiac killer, I'm going to eat my shirt. Because he's not. I don't like eating shirts, but I'll do it because I'm so confident that he's not Zodiac. He might be a little weird. I personally think Don Chaney was probably a really nice guy. I would hang out with Don Chaney. I don't think he's the Zodiac killer, and I would hang out with Don Chaney in a campground and go hunting or whatever, or, go out outdoorsmanship, but I don't like to shoot animals and everything. So I wouldn't really want to do that. Ideally. If I had to survive, that's a different matter, but pretty much what we know, it's okay, guys, to go, okay, maybe I'm just wrong here. That looks a little more accurate that way, doesn't it? This is actually kind of a weird sketch. There's some issues with it. Let's turn it upside down and see if it helps understand what I'm talking about. Look at how off-center that face shape is. Anyway, moving on. I'm open to the possibility that D'Angelo is not the Ripon shooter, and as you guys can see, I struggle with it. But I think it's time to realize that at a certain point, it's just too damned obvious. Could also be EAR's accomplice. Yes, but remember that even as an accomplice, modus operandi is almost so specific that it's like gotta be one dude. But maybe, Mr. Walnuts can't see our comments, only you, because the G-Man had a shadow band. Is that true? Let me make sure that that's not the case. You're not shadow banned, are you? No, you're not shadow banned on here. He might just not be watching anymore. I'm not sure. Polly Walnuts, are you still there? He might not be here. Polly Walnuts, if you're still here, comment. And then if you can see Murder Inc.'s comments, write something like, I can see Murder Inc.'s comments. If you can't see them, write, I can't see Murder Inc.'s comments. And what you should see is just, hey, Murder Inc., just in case the G-Men have you shadow banned. Because I don't like that. I mean, if I shadow ban somebody, that's a different story. Like, I have that guy from the Son of Sam case, or that girl, Son of Sam case shadow banned on this channel, and I've admitted to it and mentioned it. Let's read Murder Inc.'s comments together. Ripon is only 5 blocks from the area where EAR's stolen car was found on 1/19/77. Murder Inc. says he's writing from an undisclosed location. Why can't you see them? Oh my god. You're right, Murder Inc. They have you shadow banned. Well, I won't stand for this. I'm going to read your comments live on this stream, Murder Inc., and that will help. Murder Inc. says he's writing from an undisclosed location. Murder Inc. says Inez Kersner, murdered by a prowler in 2001 at the same address the stolen car was found. Her family was Phyllis Blassie's neighbor. Murder Inc. says MO can only be used to link crimes. Never to rule out. We've proved serial killers vary MO heavily from day to day with confessions from Richard Cottingham. Murder Inc. says we'll give you a temporary password to pull up the interactive GSK map of all possible on your stream if you want. Murder Inc. says lighter to prowl with a semi-automatic. Murder Inc. says could just be what he happened to have on him. Prowling was likely impulsive sometimes. Murder Inc. says did you read The Chosen One M, I from 1961? Murder Inc. says Mr. Walnuts can't see our comments, only you, because the G-Men had a shadow band. Murder Inc. says could also be EAR's accomplice. So hopefully that will circumvent the shadow banning that has been... That's concerning. Why is that happening? Murder Inc. Polly Walnuts wants to know if you still talk to Brad. And Murder Inc., can you see Polly Walnuts' comments? Polly Walnuts, double check all your... Make sure that you... Well, I guess you can't, because you can't... And I checked mine, too. I did the 3 dots, and I went over here. I said, he's not hidden from channel. He's not on timeout. Blah, blah, blah. So I don't know what's going on here, but I don't agree with it. Oh, yeah, he's dead. Yeah, Joe's nephew, Baseman, he died. Murder Inc. says he's dead. That's correct. Baseman is dead. Baseman died in like 2021 or something. I don't know if you know the year there, Murder Inc. But he's been dead a few years now. What we're seeing here... The thing is, I'm not ready to believe that an EAR accomplice shot Rod Miller. It's possible. I don't know, man. I mean, Murder Inc., you're giving us an out on the Wiggs thing here, and that's fair. You know, it's good to entertain all possibilities. I'm not trying to be Drew Beeson here and just decline because I don't want it to be true. It's possible that D'Angelo was not wearing wigs and that there are more than one East Area rapist. It's possible. Murder Inc., can you see... Yeah, you must be able to see because you asked about... He asked about Brad and then you replied. So why the fuck can no one see Murder Inc.'s comments? I don't like that. Is there a way to put it? Jesus. Yeah, I mean, he kind of did, but at the same time, how much would you know? Like, you know, if your uncle's the East Area rapist, he's not going to tell you everything. You'd really be limited to the same kind of secrecy bullshit that all of us had. All right, so let's look at... I think Brad didn't want to get sued by Sharon. Yeah. Sharon's a trip, man. Murder Inc., what do you think about Sharon D'Angelo? You think she knew what was going on? Because I sometimes think that it's like hard to believe that she didn't. And the whole estranged but never divorced for years and years and years and years thing is a little interesting. It's because, of course, with spousal immunity, not only could Sharon not be forced to testify against D'Angelo, D'Angelo could block testimony of Sharon because of spousal immunity. If she knew that he was the East Area rapist... Oh, you actually have talked to her? Yeah. Polly Walnuts thinks she knew too. This is some interesting stuff. Because let's put it this way. If Sharon knows that D'Angelo was EAR and she tries to testify against him, D'Angelo could say, no, she's not allowed to testify because we're married. So now is is D'Angelo, did he coerce her? Why would you? You're such a creeper, Polly. You hung up. You're the guy making all the hang up calls in this case, huh? Are you that guy that was calling every house on La Alegria at 8 p.m.? Let me find out. It's just, it's kind of hard to believe that she wouldn't know. But at the same time, D'Angelo's activities hinged upon him being completely secret about everything. You know, he couldn't let anybody know he was the AR. All it would take, let's say Sharon knows and Sharon wants to tell on him. All it would take is for Sharon to recover some of the souvenirs and the memorabilia of her husband, if she knows where they are. Bring them to another person, such as EAR had a fence. Fuck, man. Fuck. Did he kill him? Because one of the things that it's hard for me to believe and to understand is, like, how could so many people be involved in this conspiracy and nobody ever spilled the beans until the DNA came back? And to ask you another kind of a challenge question, Murder Inc., if the government is covering all this stuff up, then why did they allow Paul Holes to identify the Eurons? Kind of makes you wonder. And that's something I've been thinking about lately too. Like, let's say there's a law enforcement conspiracy to cover up who Eurons is, which is possible. I don't think that, but it could happen. Well, how come Paul Holes was allowed to identify him? Was it just like eventually he became, expendable? Like, what was going on? Gets drunk sometimes and looks people up and calls them. You need to go to an AA meeting, Paulie. Call Sharon and have a real discussion with her, man. Like, I don't think she's going to tell you anything, but you might as well try. Don't call and then hang up when she answers. That's just weird. It's not helping. I'm not criticizing you. I'm looking at the practicality of your actions, if you have the ability to contact Sharon, call her, ask her, be like, hey, what the heck, man? Now, I don't think she's going to tell you anything, though. Either way. Now, here's another thing. And I think Murder Inc., what do you think about this? These people could be like a satanic secret society, man. This could be like a creepy-ass cabal of weirdos who are all gathered together doing devil worship and fucking killing people and raping them. It's possible. Is that probably not. I just find it hard to believe no one would have ever spilled the beans, But it's very possible. In my experience, every criminal conspiracy that I ever saw, people couldn't shut their fucking mouths. And I saw some criminal conspiracies as a criminal. People just love gossiping. And so, these people would have to be highly disciplined, satanic, secret society type cult. But I think that that's what you mean when you name yourself Murder Inc. Now, that could be wrong. I don't know if there's I'm not trying to misrepresent your name. But I think that you're kind of hinting at the whole idea that this is like I wonder that too. I mean, he's in segregated housing at Corcoran, so nobody's talking. No, he's not. Is he hanging out with anybody? How come no one's killed him? I guess they're all just as bad as he is. It surprises me that he's lasted for 7 years in prison without getting shanked to death. It's Eurons. If I were a murderer in prison serving, 25 life terms and I went into D'Angelo, I'd fuck him up. So there must be some kind of a protection that's being done here. It's just like, is this thing on boost or normal? Paulie Walnuts, try to call Sharon. I think there's 6 prisoners in his pod, him included. But they're in separate cells, right? They don't bring them out at the same time. I don't think these guys interact with each other much. They might be able to talk through the vents or throw kites to each other. You'd have to ask Larry Lawton, the jewel thief who's on YouTube. He knows everything there is to know about prison, and he's proud of it. I'm not sure how much real physical interaction this guy's getting with others anymore at this point. He looks terrible, by the way. We have pictures of him nowadays. Well, I guess the most recent one was like 2022 or something, when he was moved to Corcoran. I wish he wouldn't reject mail. I have questions for him, but I'm not going to waste a stamp. G-Men covering up linkage blindness. Did you hear once he was gardening in prison? I bet he is. Yeah, he loves gardening. Yeah, I mean, I don't like Paul Holes as much as I did before now, because Paul Holes says a lot of just wacky shit, dude. If he's dirty or not, Paul Holes is really quick to, like, come up with a hypothesis and then just, like, run around town. Like, dude, D'Angelo and Greg Sanchez did not get into a fist fight. Didn't happen. Never happened. You know, that's a bullshit theory. And it got spread everywhere. People were like, oh, yeah, Greg Sanchez really rocked his lights out. And they got into a fight. It's like, no, the fuck they didn't. D'Angelo didn't even give him time, man. There's a reason that pool of blood is at the foot of the bed. Because as soon as Sanchez tried to stand up, as soon as Sanchez did anything that even remotely resembled resistance or non-compliance, D'Angelo shot him in the face. That's what D'Angelo does. D'Angelo does not allow fair fights. And, I mean, you can't argue with the tactics of it. You know, all these guys in the UFC, he's a coward for other reasons, you know. You know, tying up women and raping them is chicken shit, faggotry shit. You know. But, as far as... D'Angelo's not going to get in a fist fight with Greg Sanchez. Who would? Greg Sanchez would have whooped his ass, man. Gun or no gun. You know, the statistics are that if you're within 21 feet of an attacker with a firearm, you have an 80% chance of winning that fight. And let's look at the physical stature of Greg Sanchez against Joseph D'Angelo. D'Angelo didn't let him get out of that bed. Greg Sanchez tried. That's why Sanchez was never bound. See, because Sanchez, as soon as he realized something was up, he'd probably heard about Offerman Manning, and Offerman also broke loose of his bindings. But Sanchez tried to roll out of that bed, stand up, or get up, and within an instant, D'Angelo shot him in the face. No hesitation. He then took the lawn plugger. Now, Sanchez probably stumbled because he's been shot through the cheek. I'm not saying he dropped right where he was, because that's not what happened. The physical evidence disagrees with that. What did happen, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, you guys that know more about the Domingo Sanchez murders, the closet pole was pulled down in the closet, and it had fallen on Greg Sanchez. Now, this is because Sanchez... Okay, here's what happened. Sanchez rolls out of bed, tries to stand up, tries to sit up, whatever he does. D'Angelo immediately and without hesitation shoots him in the face. Now shot in the face, Sanchez stumbles to the closet, probably can't see because, one, he has a flashlight in his face, and two, it's dark in the room. He can't see, so he stumbles toward the closet and grabs onto the closet pole for stability, which falls down because he's a big, heavy guy. And before he can do anything, react, or do anything, D'Angelo is on top of him with the lawn plugger and hits him 24 times in the back of the head. There's no fight there. There was never a fight. And Paul Holes went all over the internet and everywhere else telling everybody, and this got repeated ad nauseum until it became a fact of the case, that Sanchez and D'Angelo got into a fist fight. No, the fuck they didn't. How does Joe stick around after the gunshot goes off in a condo? Interesting concept. Let me think about that. Does he? Now, okay. Murder Inc., have you seen my stream about the Sanchez Domingo case theory that I have? Here's what I think possibly happened at this crime scene. So D'Angelo comes in through the bathroom door. Let's take Sanchez and Domingo are asleep. He quietly creeps in through the bathroom, And then, I don't have a flashlight, but he wakes them up with a flashlight. Okay? This is what woke up Greg Sanchez. Not the door scraping on the fucking carpet. None of that bullshit that people talk about. Like, oh, the door scraped on the... No. That's not what woke up Greg Sanchez. What almost certainly woke up Greg Sanchez was the flashlight. After he was shot, if Sanchez wasn't bound... Yes, probably. Okay. We don't know how long Sherry Domingo was alive after Greg Sanchez was killed. But here's what I think happened. He comes in through the bathroom, textbook EAR, he wakes them up with a flashlight. Okay? Sanchez, knowing that there's trouble, and Sherry Domingo was bound, right? Okay, this still works. I have a continuum in this theory. Here's my case theory. He wakes him up with a flashlight. Sanchez isn't buying it. There may have been minimal interaction. There may have been no interaction. Who knows? But for some reason, Sanchez decides to sit up or roll out of bed. I think he sits up first. And I think he sits up and he goes to get out of the bed like this. At the foot of the bed, where EAR's standing. No hesitation, no warning, no nothing. D'Angelo shoots him in the face instantly. Sanchez stumbles into the closet, grabs onto the closet pole. The closet pole collapses. D'Angelo's on top of him already with the lawn plugger. Bam, 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 24 times, right? In this situation, Domingo is stunned. Wouldn't you be? Because all hell's just broken loose. Some guy's just broken in, shot him in the face, and then beat him to death. Sherry Domingo witnesses. Now, also possible that the blows are not delivered right away. I think that at least a couple of them are delivered right away. Probably he hits him a couple times, once or twice, something like that, right? Then he goes to Sherry Domingo. Sherry Domingo has just witnessed this insane fucking thing now. Now, totally stunned. No, she might not necessarily be screaming. Because D'Angelo might have said to her, "Don't scream or I'll kill you." He did this a lot. D'Angelo would, light on, and he would say, "Don't scream or I'll kill you." Well, she knows he's not bluffing because she just witnessed him shoot Sanchez in the face and hit him in the back of the head. However many times he hit him. He probably hit him once, right? Then he approaches Domingo. Yes, the gunshot and Joe sticks around. We're going to talk about that. Because I think that there's circumstantial evidence that Joe stuck around. He has to. I'll tell you why. In this lineup. And this is all hypothetical. I don't know this for sure. I wasn't there. But this is a logical, educated case hypothesis. Domingo knows and is probably completely shocked. A lot of times people will just freeze up in shock, like, fuck, And he's already told them, from the moment he shined a flashlight in their face, don't scream or I'll kill you. And she knows he's not bluffing because she just witnessed him murder him. Or what she thinks is a murder has happened. During whatever interaction that's now occurring, now the scene is what it is. Because he has the police radio on his belt. That's possible too. But remember, by the time that he kills Domingo Sanchez, he's no longer police. Now, anyway, regardless, Sanchez begins to reanimate, or he begins to do something that indicates he's alive. Remember, Joe D'Angelo operates with practicality in his homicides. Yes, he does rageful things, if that's a word. But I think what happened is Sanchez begins to reanimate. Or he does something that indicates to D'Angelo that he's not totally dead. So D'Angelo goes back to the closet with the lawn plugger, and that's why he hits him 23 more times. It's not just the anger. he would still have the radio always. Could Sanchez have been shot at the end? No, because the gunshot was not post-mortem, and the blows are what kills him. Greg Sanchez dies because of the bludgeoning, not because of the gunshot. But the gunshot is not post-mortem. The gunshot is while he's alive. So he must have been shot first and then hit. So I think what's happening is that he's been shot in the face and hit maybe once or twice in the head. Probably once. Because remember, if you're looking at Lyman Smith, Charlene Smith, the Harringtons before, there's already 2 bludgeoning murders that D'Angelo has executed with a single blow. He kills Lyman Smith with a single blow of the firewood. He kills Keith Harrington with a single blow from the sprinkler. Both killed single blow. So he probably only hit Sanchez one time. He's in the closet racks on top of him, whatever it is. He goes, boom, hits him in the back of the head. Right? Assuming, because he's already done this before, that Sanchez is dead. He goes back to Sherry Domingo and gets her bound up the way... Because Domingo's bound, remember? Domingo's bound, but Sanchez is not. So he gets her bound. During this process, Sanchez stews. Maybe there's agonal breathing. Maybe there's like this kind of a behavior. So for practicality's sake, D'Angelo goes back over with the lawn plugger, and this time he hits him so many times that he's definitely dead. After 24 blows from the lawn plugger, there is 0% chance that Greg Sanchez is going to be ever moving again, and he knows that. Then he rapes Sherry Domingo. After the rape, now remember, there's only one gunshot. He hits her with the lawn plugger and kills her. Remember, if you're a very observant and a very knowledgeable Iran's case researcher, you remember that there are imprints in the carpet in the bathroom. Remember the gunshot. D'Angelo has now discharged a firearm in the house. Or maybe EAR's brother holds Sanchez at gunpoint in the closet. Yes, but you only have one DNA profile as far as we know at that crime scene, and I don't think it requires 2 offenders. I don't think that Sanchez had much time to do anything here. Because Greg Sanchez is a large, imposing man, and D'Angelo isn't fucking with that. D'Angelo is not going to allow Sanchez to be alive for any longer than he needs to be. The fact that he's already resisted, EAR is not playing around anymore. He shoots him in the face, and he wants him dead. Okay? Remember the imprints in the carpet in the bathroom. D'Angelo's discharged a firearm in the residence. If he leaves that residence anytime in the next 20 minutes, there might still be people awake. And they might see him. So what does he do? He goes into the bathroom and he stands there and waits. He waits for hours. 2-3 hours. No, he doesn't use a sound. I don't think so. We'd have to know. Were there gunshots reported in that area? Even... Maybe, but... No, because it's a revolver. You can't silence a revolver. Because the gases are ejected from the cylinder. So you can't suppress a revolver. It's just the same sound. Gases and sounds are emitted from the cylinder gap. So he kills him with a revolver. There's no silencer, no suppressor involved. Right? The imprints in the carpet don't happen before the assault begins, like many concluded. See, when Paul Holes and his friends looked at the Sanchez-Domingo crime scene, they thought that the imprints were put into the carpet before the assault begins. I don't think so. I think the imprints are put in the carpet after the assault has concluded because, just like Murder Inc. said, a firearm has been discharged inside that residence. D'Angelo is not going to leave in the next 20 minutes. There's going to be people possibly. Remember, he's operating from practicality. He doesn't know for sure that anyone's awake. But this guy doesn't leave anything to chance. He doesn't like loose ends. He stands there and he waits for 3 hours in silence. Why would he stand in one spot in the basement? He would be cooking and shit. Because if he's cooking and making noise, someone might notice that someone is awake inside that particular residence in the bathroom. He's standing in silence in the dark, just waiting till he can leave. Okay? Okay, I'll give you a personal anecdote. This one time I was in a meth lab, and the person that I was with got arrested because they went out of the room, made a huge fucking scene, whatever. I was with another person, so there were 3 of us there. One of them left, got themselves arrested. Well, we were inside the bedroom of the person who just got arrested with a meth lab. The cops showed up, and the cops are knocking on both doors. The slider in the back and the bedroom door. Boom, boom, boom. Sheriff's department. Anyone in there? Sheriff's department. Now, we both know that they need a warrant to come in. So I looked over at the other guy that I was with. He died now. He died in 2021, I think. And I said, shh. Basically, I said, don't fucking make a sound, basically. You just don't do anything. Dead silent. And don't even move. Because the cops are at both doors now. We're surrounded by glassware and chemicals. So just stay the fuck right there. And we waited for like 4 fucking hours, man. And he kept trying to leave. He was like, I'm gonna pack. I said, don't fucking move. We need to be sure that the cops are gone. So I've personally been in a situation not quite as bad as the Sanchez Domingo, but it's pretty bad. Especially when you already have meth manufacturing on your record. You don't want to get caught doing it twice. And I basically told him, don't fucking move. And we sat there for like 3 hours tweaking out of our minds. Just in silence, not moving, not talking, not doing shit. That's what D'Angelo was doing when he made those imprints in the bathroom. I believe. I don't think those imprints come from before the assault. Because the timeline starts to break down. If the sound that woke up Greg Sanchez was the door scraping on the carpet, then 1, Greg Sanchez has a head start, and 2, then you can't account for the prints in the ground, or in the floor, in the carpet. The prints in the carpet have to come from after the gunshot is discharged. I don't think this door scraping on the fucking floor woke up Sanchez. Because if it did, Sanchez would have been a little more ready than he was. He wasn't ready for this. He woke up to a flashlight, he tried to sit up and tried to resist, and he was shot immediately. The timeline works with my theory better. So to break it down for you, D'Angelo comes in silently through the bathroom. He wakes him up with the flashlight. Sanchez starts to sit up. D'Angelo shoots him once in the face. He stumbles, falls into the closet. D'Angelo grabs a lawn plugger, hits Sanchez once. He's probably told Sherry Domingo, don't scream or I'll kill you, and that accounts for why she doesn't scream when the gunshot goes off. He hits him once, whatever. Then he goes, he binds Sherry Domingo, sexually assaults her. At some point during this process, Sanchez begins to reanimate, begins to stir, and because he does so, D'Angelo comes back over with the lawn plugger, hits him 23 times to make damn sure that he's not getting back up, and then he kills Sherry Domingo. And then, because the firearm has been discharged, this all happens in probably 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever. The firearm this is a fresh thing. The firearm's been discharged. Neighbors might be awake, so to counteract that, D'Angelo goes back into the bathroom with all the lights off, and he stops and he waits for God knows how long, and then he walks out the back silently and cautiously. However, and actually, man, the whole Domingo Sanchez crime scene is such a trip because there is bloody handprints leading. Don't think he would stand still after he could sit on the toilet. Yes, but he did. He did stand still because we have the shoe impressions in the carpet. We know that happened. He might not have just thought of it. He might have just not thought of that murdering. I didn't think of that. Oh, I could sit on the toilet. Maybe he did sit on the toilet. I don't know where the shoe impressions are. Though I suspect that if the shoe impressions were directly in front of the toilet, they would have mentioned that. I don't know. But the Sanchez Domingo crime scene is such a trip because there's bloody handprints that go from the back bedroom or whatever bedroom they're in down the hallway towards the front door of the residence. And law enforcement thought that meant that whoever had killed these two was trying to feel his way through the residence in the dark. Why would he do that? I don't know. Could it have been a red herring? I don't know. I don't know why that shit's there. There's weird shit going on in this crime scene, but my case hypothesis, and it probably has some flaws, it's probably not perfect, but it's the closest that I've got to a narrative that fucking makes sense. Look at the narrative, Murder Inc. There's nothing wrong really with it. It's a little weird, and it kind of goes, well, what about this, what about that? But look at the situation. He comes in through the bathroom, he shines a flashlight, says, don't scream or I'll kill you. Sanchez tries to move, he shoots him, he falls into the closet, he hits him one time, he comes back, he binds Domingo. Domingo's not screaming because she's been told not to scream. D'Angelo realizes Sanchez is not dead somehow, some way. He comes back with the lawn plugger, hits him 23 times. Then he comes back over, either finishes or the assault has already concluded. He hits her in the back of the head, kills her too. And then at some point during all this, the shoe print impressions are made in the bathroom. Not sure when. I don't think... Oh, okay, we have so much to talk about in Domingo Sanchez. In Domingo Sanchez... Remember, Murder Inc., it's only one gunshot. If you hear a single gunshot go off in your neighborhood, how do you know what house that came from? That's why Joe knows he can stay at 449 Toltec. Junkfood Joey knows it's safe to remain inside 449 Toltec as long as he doesn't draw attention to the residence, because only one gunshot. I think he waited before in the bathroom, then maybe Sanchez went to use the bathroom. No, because the bloodstain is at the foot of the bed. So Sanchez was shot at the foot of the bed. So to me, the blood evidence shows Sanchez sits up and goes to roll out of bed like this. He's shot in the cheek. In fact, that might explain why it's the cheek, right? Because let's say, and I don't know which side it was, but let's say Sanchez he sits up and he goes to roll out of bed like this to confront his attacker. Well, what part of his face is now exposed? Boom, shoots him in the cheek. Sanchez stumbles forward, which dumps blood at the foot of the bed, and then into the closet. But a single gunshot, you can't triangulate the position. As long as there are no more gunshots, that's why there's no sexual assault in Offerman Manning as far as I know. Maybe there is. Because Offerman got returned to Toltec Way in August 81. Well, that murder is... Oh, July, you're right. Did he? Okay, yeah. I would like to know about that. But he knows that if he stays inside 449 and he doesn't make a fucking sound, then no one is ever going to know what house that gunshot came from. But he has to be quiet, and he has to not... He can't be in the kitchen cooking and ransacking and doing all that, because he draws attention to the house. So, where were we on that? There was a very important point that I was about to bring up there. Oh, yeah. The shoe print impressions cannot be from before the offense, because the official narrative is, or from before the assault begins, because the official narrative is that what woke up Greg Sanchez was the door scraping on the carpet. If the door scraped on the carpet and that woke up Sanchez, then he can't stand still for hours. And I don't think that Sanchez had a head start on him like that. I think he woke up to a flashlight. That would explain why he never got the drop on Joe. See, Paul Holes has made up this ridiculous fucking story about Sanchez and D'Angelo duking it out. Never happened. Sanchez would have whooped his fucking ass, man. No way did that happen. Are there defensive wounds on Sanchez's knuckles? It doesn't make sense. It didn't happen. There was never a fight. Sanchez barely got out of bed. But the blood evidence puts the pool of blood at the foot of the bed. So Sanchez isn't shot going to the bathroom. And I don't think that D'Angelo was waiting inside the room for any appreciable period of time before he initiated his assault. He went straight from the bathroom into the bedroom. All in one motion. As soon as he gained access, he's in. And it begins. And so the imprints can't come from the initiation of the assault, from before the initiation of the assault. The imprints have to come from after the assault. You know? But there's no fight. And all this, I guess we got started on all this because we were talking about Paul Holes. You're right, Paul Holes is insane for that. You know? And I don't think that running DNA through GEDmatch is really even that impressive anymore. I mean, it's good that we did that and everything, you know, but it's not like Paul Holes is some genius detective. The way he writes about it in his book, I have his book here, which I know you're going to be disappointed in me for having it. I don't know where it is, which is, you might regain some respect for me for not knowing where it is. But, point is, August 5th, Goleta, a woman on Toltec Drive, was reportedly knitting in her living room at 3:25 a.m. when she heard a knob on her kitchen door turn. She then heard someone unlatch the lock and slide back the screen. Why is she alive? What a fucking trip. Isn't it weird the way he keeps returning to these crime scenes and these areas? He's so brazen, it's unbelievable. The only time that he doesn't return to an area is when he thinks he's been seen, it appears. Look at Ripon Court. Only reason Junkfood Joey, and I should take his face off of there, only reason Junkfood Joey doesn't return to the area south of Highway 50 again is because Rod Miller saw him. If he had killed Rod Miller, or if no one had seen him, he would have had no problem going back down to Ripon Court and offending there again. Why does he do that? Very strange. How did he get away with this? But about holding Sanchez in the closet at gunpoint, don't think it happened. I don't think Sanchez had any time to do shit. I think that Sanchez, as soon as he showed even the slightest hint of resistance, Joe just shot him in the face. Then hit him once. Because it was clear he wasn't dead. He was aiming for the headshot. He wanted him to just boom, dead. That's what he wanted. Didn't work, so he came back with the lawn plugger, plop, in the back of the head. That didn't kill him either, because Sanchez is fucking badass as fuck. And so Junkfood Joey is now annoyed. He doesn't hit Sanchez 24 times because he lost in a fight to him, Paul Holes. That didn't happen. What the fuck are you talking about, Paul Holes? You're insane. That didn't happen, Paul. There's just no way. And the evidence is, what are they doing? Pirouetting around the room together? It didn't happen. He went from the bed to the closet. It's a beeline. It's a one shot. He stumbled into it, attempted to grab the closet pole. We see this a lot with violent, significant injuries. There's plenty of videos of this type of thing if you're crazy and you want to traumatize yourself, where people will, get like their throat slit or something like that, and they'll go and grab onto something for stability. That is what Sanchez did. Sanchez stumbled from the bed to the closet, and Joe was on top of him instantly. P. Holes is dirty. Yeah, I mean, it may very well be. Whether he's dirty or not, he's wrong about Sanchez. I know it's a good story. It's a cool story. Why did he stop striking for 5 years? Because Sanchez whooped his ass and he was scared and and all this shit. I know it's a fun story, And it's kind of this victorious loud and go, Sanchez almost got him. No, he didn't. He never almost got Junkfood Joey. Junkfood Joey had why do you need that? Why does Paul Holes need to invent this whole spectacular fight? He's wrong about everything. I mean, I'm not far behind you, Murder Inc. at this point. But, why does he need this narrative, this whole story about Junkfood Joey and Sanchez getting in this big fight? Because it's not... Sanchez is so badass, you don't need to make shit up, man. He did the best he could with what he had, and he had nothing because he had a flashlight in his face, and the guy had a gun pointed at him already. There's nothing he could have done, man. Wait, And it's sad and tragic. In this situation, yes, resist your offender. Almost always. Resist. If a guy comes into your house in the middle of the night wearing a fucking ski mask and shining a light at you with a gun, fight that motherfucker, because he's probably not there to do anything good. And in fact, we don't even know that D'Angelo wore a ski mask at the original Night Stalker attacks because nobody survived to tell us. D'Angelo could have gone in there without a mask knowing that nobody's going to live. And that's a scarier thought. You know? He might have just done it for fun. Remember, he called the Sacramento sheriff and told them he was going to strike on Watt Avenue just as a challenge to himself, we believe. So that he could get the adrenaline out of knowing that the cops knew where he was going to strike and they still couldn't get him. So he might have gone in as the original Night Stalker with no fucking mask. Look at Danville. Paul Holes said he looked really hard and found no other crimes in California that match. There are hundreds of possibles that match so well. Yeah, I mean, you're right about that. Because, oh man, what a weird fucking situation, man. Now, he could have just been referring to DNA. Because Paul Holes might have been operating under the faulty assumption that every time D'Angelo struck, he had to leave his semen there. He doesn't have to. The official narrative suggests that he always ejaculated at crime scenes. Was there even a sexual assault on Sanchez and Domingo? There might not have been. You know? But it's weird that Sanchez isn't bound. The only possible thing that could have happened is that all of this took place before D'Angelo could bind Sanchez. It had to hit the fan almost instantly. Because otherwise, Sanchez would have been tied up, like Offerman. Offerman broke his twine and got free and was shot. Remember at Offerman Manning, D'Angelo fires the firearm 5 or 6 times. I think it's a 5-shot revolver with Super Bell ammunition. He shoots 5 times. He doesn't make that mistake ever again. He never discharges a volley of ammunition inside of a house ever again. It's almost my bedtime, guys. But yeah, Paul Holes is tripping balls, man. And even if... This is the thing, man. In true crime, if you have a really good achievement like capturing neurons, don't do anything, don't say anything else. Because you risk just blowing all your fucking credibility like Paul Holes has done, in my eyes. You know. Man, I was telling people that I wanted Paul Holes to be the president. And then what happened? He kept talking. It's just a trip. But you're right. Yeah, Paul Holes, I guess because he didn't want to go down that rabbit hole. You know? Here's what we don't have, Murder Inc. From any of the non-canonical crimes that you've dug up, we don't have any DNA evidence that we know of that links D'Angelo to any other crimes. Now, they could be there, and like you said, as part of the plea agreement, we would just never know. But why? I don't know. I don't understand a lot of the situation. What do you think about... I mean, dude, it has to be a fucking satanic cult, man. Murder Inc., if you're right, if there's this big law enforcement-wide cover-up, these guys are fucking doing some dark shit, man. So we're way off topic. We went from Ripon to Goleta. But, you know, such is the nature of these rabbit holes. I was told by a confidential informant that there is a federal blackout, so they won't announce the match. Jesus. Why? I guess because all the other... You know what it is? I think all the other ones that are linked by DNA were linked before it was revealed that he was law enforcement. Once they realized he was law enforcement, they had to then go... Okay, there's no more. It's just those ones. Oh, fuck. You're probably right. You know what, Murder Inc., you're starting to get to me here in terms of like you're starting to break through my skepticism. I'm starting to like agree more and more with you, and it's like all these other things. I have to digest it forever. Yeah. You're right. It could be that. I don't like that they do that. It's like, just fucking be wrong. It's okay, man. It's not a big deal. You know how many fucking times I've come on the stream and told you guys shit and then found out I was like smoked out and just didn't fucking know? Like, my whole Sanchez Domingo theory could be dead wrong. It's okay. We don't need to like go covering shit up because we can't be wrong. It's just pathetic. It's like, how the fuck are we supposed to trust you guys? I love that they caught him. It's good work. Thank God that they did that, because we needed that motherfucker off the street. I don't care how old he is. But, yeah. Damn, man. 5-year gap. Now, here's another question. Well, okay, so let's say that between... Here's a question for you, Murdering, because it's a challenge question for you. Between Sanchez and Domingo in 1981 and Janelle Cruz in 1986. Let's say he keeps offending and he never stops. He does the Placer County shootings of the PG&E workers. He does the fucking everything on Tony Reed's website, blah, 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 everything. And he's offending religiously from 1981 to 1986. Why does he stop leaving his DNA for a little while, but then go back to leaving his DNA at the Cruz crime scene? Why? If he's already progressed past the point of ejaculating at all the crime scenes between 1981 and 1986, why does he resume ejaculation at the crime scenes in 1986? Because the Cruz crime scene has copious amounts of ejaculate. In 1981, he doesn't. You are only getting manual matches. What does that mean? Oh, you're not allowed to know the... Okay. Cops had to look and say, let's compare these. Now, of course, comparing two at a time. So it's your opinion that there are numerous other DNA matches from 1981 to 1986, and we're just not told about them. And the 5-year gap is a hoax. I mean, I'm not... that's not a bad idea at all. It's probably very, very reasonable. Because in a sense, they're right. It doesn't look very good if one of your police officers turns out to be this ridiculously prolific serial offender, but they didn't know that he was a cop until they arrested him. And then, yeah. Okay. I can get behind that. So there is no 5-year gap at all. There's not even a shift in the MO. There's probably textbook DNA type EAR assaults between 81 and 86, and we're just not being told. In the Zodiac too. Fuck, I hope not. Shit, I mean, if the guy never fucking slept, he just only killed people all waking minutes of the day. Didn't he ever stop being horny then, Murder Inc? It's mind-blowing. I'm not... I can't say that you're totally wrong, man. It's just going to require me to see the evidence before I can say that, and I'll happily say it. If we can somehow get it, if we can hack into the whatever databases and figure out that, oh, there is a Zodiac DNA match, I'll accept it happily. Thank God we'd solve the case, That would be great. It would be great to be wrong about that. I hope that, I'm wrong. If only if we can find out, though. It would suck to, Oh. That's why they went silent about Zodiac DNA. Look how prolific Visalia Ransacker and EAR were active almost every night. Wow. Why the fuck did he never stop being horny, man? Never took a break? He just killed every night? Jesus. What a nightmare. He really is the worst of the worst, man. This guy is the number one monster we've ever seen. And I say that just from the perspective of the 13 canonical murders. Imagine all this other stuff that Murder Inc. is saying he did. It's mind-blowing. So, I just need to see it. I want the evidence. I'm not saying it's not true. I just can't think it until I have the evidence, because then it gets into the territory of am I just thinking it because I want to, because I don't have any basis of information to really say for sure. Like, I can tell you I'm positive. Think of how calculated he was by the time he was CBK. Fuck. Jesus Christ. Yeah. And there's, I've previously argued against him being the Zodiac because the Zodiac ejected shell casings and the Eurons didn't. But again, at Ripon Court, and that's 1977, after the Snelling shooting, he's ejecting shell casings at Ripon Court. So he's all over the fucking map, and you can't tell. What a fucking nightmare. Oh my god. What was going on with this guy, man? What the fuck was this guy's deal? You'd think the luck would run out. If you offended that many times, Murder Inc., like, let's say he did all the crimes on your map, wouldn't he have been caught? I mean, fuck. Until he wasn't. He was like the luckiest guy of all time, man. He just couldn't, he never fucked up until he did. But that was a long period of time. What a trip. I don't know. Okay, it's getting to be late. I could go on for hours and hours and hours. This stream could go on for 10 fucking hours. We're having such a deep, thought-provoking... I love having Murder Inc. on this stream, guys. Murder Inc. is the best, and you're now a fucking moderator, Murder Inc. Fuck it. You're a standard moderator. Maybe that will help goddamn fucking... What's his name? See your comments. Guys, this is how you change a person's mind, man. Murder Inc. has been on my stream every day that I've streamed. He has been religiously here. And he's sowing these seeds to me that it's getting me to think, man. Do I think he's right about everything? No. Is anyone right about everything? No. But God, who's right about everything? Nobody in the world, right? So it's okay if Murder Inc. has, 2,500 crimes on his map and they're not D'Angelo. It doesn't mean everything he does is wrong either. Because nobody's wrong all the time either. Except maybe Drew Beeson. Drew Beeson hates me now. Drew Beeson has to fucking... He shadow banned me a long time ago, so... I don't watch his stream anymore anyway. The Zodcast. It's like, okay, I'm good on that. That's okay. Not gonna watch a stream called the Zodcast. It's like, whose side are we on here, Drew? It's like those other guys, Rodelli and what's his name? Did Grinell do this too? They have a fucking podcast called This is the Zodiac Speaking. It's like, this is the what? Whose side are you on? It's disturbing. So let's name our podcast The Zodcast. It's clever, yeah, but let's maybe retire that name after like 1 or 2 shows. Like if I did a show called The Zodcast, I would do it one time. I wouldn't name my stream that. Whose fucking side are you on, man? Like it's so clever he has to run with it for 12 years. It's not. Oh, happy Halloween to you too. It's 9 p.m. here, but it's 9 p.m. on D'Angelo Standard Time on the West Coast. Shit, man. Happy Halloween to everyone. I have been live for 2 fucking hours. This will go on all night if I don't stop.